All right, it looks like we are live here on the Spellbound Magic Shop and Theater page. Over the last couple of months here, me being open, I have been given great opportunity to interview a lot of different people, a lot of magicians, a lot of notable people. But this one here, I am super, super excited about. It's somebody that I've been following a long time, way before I even started doing magic. And one of the first times I ever actually seen this person perform was on the World's Greatest Magic TV series. And man, I miss watching those so much. I remember going back and playing them over and over and over again. And that series is actually what really got me started into magic. If you look on YouTube and stuff, you can find some of those videos, and it's pretty cool to watch, what those specials were like. But right now, I'm going to show you a intro video, kind of a B-roll footage of this person. If you don't know who it is already, you should. I had a nice bright picture of him right there at the beginning of the announcement page. So it is Master Magician Lance Burton. So let's get into his intro video there.
Hi, I'm Lance Burton. I'm standing in the middle of the Nevada desert, just outside Las Vegas, the magic capital of the world. On a clear day, you can see for 100 miles in every direction. And when you're in a magical place like this, it's a good idea to keep your eyes open at all times. You never know what's going to happen. Come on, let's get started.
All right, that is very cool to watch. A lot of memories of watching his specials and different TV appearances and things like that. So I guess without further ado, the only thing left to do is welcome Lance Burton to the stream.
Hey.
All right. Hey, Lance, how we doing?
Travis, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Who do we have with us here today?
This is Rocky. He's the world's friendliest dog. I think he.
Well, that's exciting.
I think he sees himself on the screen. All right, I'll set him down. He may hang out with us, or he may wander off. Rocky has his own agenda.
I like it. I like it. Well, thank you for spending some time with me today. I'm just looking to hang out, learn a little bit about you, and all the viewers and stuff kind of share about you and some of your accolades and things that you've done.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. I'm here in Las Vegas, and you are in South Dakota?
South Dakota, you got it.
Yes, we are still planning on coming up your way. We had a show scheduled, I think, in March in North Dakota. And then that got pushed back to May, and then that got pushed back to July. And I just heard today they want to do it, but we're now planning on next summer. So as soon as things open back up, I have no control over that. But
right.
as soon as the powers that be say we can go out and do shows, then we'll be there.
Yeah, and that's exciting. So this year is your Lance Burton and Friends tour kind of show, correct?
Yes. I retired in 2010, and I didn't do any shows for 7 years. I shot my movie, and I did some other projects, but I didn't do any live shows. And then about 3 years ago, I got together with some of my buddies, Keith West and the Illusioneers, Fielding West, and Michael Goudeau, and we went out and we did a Lance Burton and Friends show. And the first year we did a couple of shows, and the next year we did a few more. And then last year we did about 10 shows. And we were, it was really a lot of fun because we were traveling around to different parts of the country, places that I'd never been, and doing shows. And this year we were on track to do about 20 shows. But then our last show was in Blackpool, England. We did 2 shows there for the Blackpool Convention. Cool. We had a great time. And then just about the time we got back in the States, the quarantine hit.
Well, at least you made it back.
Exactly. We could have gotten stuck someplace, in another country. But anyway, I've been having a lot of fun. And the best part of doing these shows now for me is after the show, we do the meet and greets out in the lobbies. Yeah. So I am meeting people, second and third generations of people that have seen my show. So this has happened a couple of times where a family will come up after the show to get their souvenir books signed, and the father will say, I came up on stage when I was 8 years old in Las Vegas to put my hand on the bird cage. And tonight, my daughter, who's 8 years old, she came up on stage to put her hand on the bird cage. And this is my mom that brought me to your show in Las Vegas. So I'm hearing all kinds of these wonderful stories now. It's really fun, gratifying.
Yeah, that's very cool. I remember being one of the first times seeing you perform, as I had mentioned before you came on here, as the World's Greatest Magic series. And I think there was, obviously your Dove and Candle act, that is amazing, beautifully done. It's one of the most memorable acts out of all of those series.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so along with that, you did do the Vanishing Birdcage on there, didn't you, at some point?
I did the Vanishing Birdcage on one of my TV specials at the very end of the special. I can't remember which one. I think maybe the second special. I did the Vanishing Birdcage, but I didn't do the whole routine. With bringing the kids up on stage. And oh, look, I'm seeing here we've got comments. We got people from Louisville, Kentucky, my hometown.
Yeah.
And the Dakotas, somebody's saying. Anyway, if you have a question, type it in. And I want to let you know that we do have a prize for the best question today. We have my new item, the very desirable Lance Burton 2-card mystery magic you can do. It comes with 2 special cards and instructions there, so that we have this for whoever writes in the best question.
That's right. Get your questions ready, get them pumping, and I'll be able to show them up on the screen here, so everybody will get to enjoy that and interact a little bit. So to go along with that, tell me about the new products, like your hat that you have, the 2 pins there. And matter of fact, I even have your mug here.
You got one of the cups. Yeah. That's the one where the dove disappears.
Yeah, it's actually a great story. My wife bought this for me for Father's Day. She pre-ordered it. And so in between the time that she ordered it and Father's Day, you had, confirmed your availability to come on here and talk with me. I'm like, that's perfect. Now I have something to actually have.
That's you pour hot liquid in and the dove disappears. I don't think we have many of those left. There may be 1 or 2 left, but so when we started, what happened was when we started doing the live shows, we bring merchandise to sell after the show. There's, we had T-shirts. This is stuff I had left over from when I was, at the Monte Carlo. But I had T-shirts and souvenir books and posters and, all that normal stuff. And then as we did more and more shows, I started getting some more things, like the 2-card mystery I just had made. I just had a new poster that we just released, and then we got these hats. So we've been selling them at the live shows, and then I'd always intended to put something online so people could get them even if they weren't at the show. So we finally did that. So it's all available on my website, lanceburton.com, and there's a little button that says shop, and that'll take you right to the place, and you can order any of that stuff.
Perfect. We'll put that right there at the bottom of the screen so everybody knows where to go.
Oh, here we're getting some questions now.
There we go.
Yeah. You want to pick one of these? Oh, most embarrassing moment or terrifying moment? You see that one? You want to put that one up on the screen?
Yeah. This one.
Question? There it is. Zach, what's your most embarrassing moment on stage or most terrifying moment on stage? Well, everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong at one point in the show. the one that pops into my mind first was when I split my pants out on stage. Well, it's happened more than once, actually. It's happened a couple of times over the years. But the first time it happened, I was at the Hacienda Hotel, and I was doing the hangman illusion. And at the Hacienda, they would hang me, I would disappear, and then I would appear up at the top of the curtain over on stage left, and I had a rope. I would slide down the rope into the audience, and then I would run through the audience and then up the center stairs and take a bow. And so I'm doing the show one night, and I'm running through the audience, and something doesn't feel right. You know, I'm feeling a breeze back behind me where I would normally not feel a breeze. And then I get up on stage, I take a bow, and the audience applauds. And then I'm trying to be sly, not let the audience know. And I kind of reach back and feel, and I could feel it. And so then I say to the audience, "How bad is that?" And I kind of turn, and then people start laughing. So
That's
fortunately,
awesome.
I was wearing black underwear, so that was a good decision.
There you go. All right, maybe that's just like pro tip for all performers.
Yeah,
Black
wear
underwear.
yeah, just in case, because it'll happen one night when you least expect it. So then the question is, you know, what do you do about it? So, you know, it was obvious. I mean, there's no way I could do the rest of the show without anybody knowing. So,
Right.
so I just explained to the audience. I said, "Yeah, it looks like I've had a malfunction back here, and I'm going to have to run off and put on my spare pair of pants." So, in the meantime, and I'm hoping, and I say this, and I kill a little time. I'm hoping somebody will tell Michael Goudot to come up here and fill some. So finally, I look over in the wings, and there's Michael Goudot, my special guest star, my juggler, and he's standing there, and he's got some juggling clubs in his hands. So I'm going, okay. Michael got the hint, and I said, "Hey, Michael's going to come out. He's got something he wants to show you." And Michael came out and did a few jokes and some juggling while I ran back to the dressing room as quick as I could and changed pants.
That's great. It's nice to know that these things happen even to pros. Like, 'cause you just
Everyone.
never know.
If you do, I've done between 15 and 16,000 shows in my life. So eventually everything goes wrong you can possibly imagine. And the point of the whole thing is that you try to be ready when things go wrong. You know, try to have a backup plan B.
Right.
So that's always very important. And Goudot was frequently my backup plan if it was something I couldn't say and had to leave the stage.
Absolutely. Well, at least he got the cue and he was there ready to go. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What other one do we have here?
Yeah, let's see. Here's a question about the ducks from T-Ray. Used to do a trick, with a peering duck with large trays. Do you know the history behind it? Who made it possibly? I have a red one with no clue anything about it. T-Ray, I can't off the top of my head rattle off the history of that trick. The duck tub trick. I think Abbott's used to make one back in the day, and I can't remember who I first saw do it, but when I was getting ready to move over to the Monte Carlo hotel, I wanted to redo the masked ball, which was the big costume number at the end of the show, and I wanted to add more tricks that were more visual and fun and funny. But at the Hacienda, I was doing the card sword and then into the sword fight. Now, the card sword was fine when I was doing, a 20-minute act or a 30-minute act. But when you're doing a 90-minute show, by the time you got to, an hour and 20, 25 minutes, what I learned at the Hacienda was that's too late to do a card trick. So I kept it in the whole run there, the whole 5 years. But I knew when I redid the show to move, I wanted to dump the card sword. Not that it's not a good trick, but an hour and 25 minutes into the show is a little too late for a card trick. So one of the things I wanted to do was the ducks. I always was a big fan of ducks. In fact, I mean, Harry Blackstone Jr. and Harry Sr. used to do a whole routine with ducks. And Matt King and I had a duck one summer when we were teenagers working in an amusement park. So that duck tub, I talked to my buddy Bill Smith, who built all the equipment. And Bill knew more about the duck production than I did. And he said, yeah, this is, and he built it. And but that was always one of my favorite tricks. And if you haven't seen it, it's you have a table and a little board that goes on top. You show everything empty, and then a tub is empty, and you pour a bucket of water into the tub, and then you put a top on it. It's kind of like a dove pan, but it's not a cover. It's just a board that goes on top, and then 3 ducks come out. So it's a very visual trick, very clever, and is a real fooler, and always got a huge reaction from the audience.
Was that technically probably your first live bird trick? Then I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I've been doing birds, since I was 14 years old.
Sure.
So that was, but working with a whole flock of ducks was fun, because ducks. Once the ducks learn the show, then it gets really fun, because ducks are social animals, so they all congregate. They'll follow each other,
Yeah.
So I could get them to walk across the stage and go in a circle, and it looks like they're responding to my commands, but they're just doing the routine once they get it, once they learn it.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know ducks were that trainable. So that's really cool.
Oh yeah.
What else we got here? This one here is from my friend Cosmo.
Cosmo.
Mm-hmm.
We all wanted to be Lance Burton growing up. We after all these years, since we still haven't become you. Well, I kind of wanted to be. I wanted to be Channing Pollock when I was a kid. So, no, you got to be yourself. You got to find your own path. And the main thing I always found was the secret was doing a lot of shows. When I was a kid and I was a teenager, I worked cheap. I would go and do a show anywhere, and my act was a one-man act, and I could pack up the whole thing and put it in my car and take the doves. And what I had when I was 16, and I went to my first magic convention. It was the IBM convention in Evansville, Indiana, and I saved up my money, and I went to the Abbott's booth, and I bought 2 Abbott's jet sets. Now, do you know what a jet set is, Travis?
No.
It's a metal stand. It's got a base that opens up and a pole and then a T at the top. And I bought 2 of them, so you could hook 2 together, and then you can take a black curtain. And my mom sewed a black curtain for me, and I could put it on there. And now I could have a backdrop, so I could have like a 6.5 foot tall, 12 foot long backdrop. And that would all fold up. It was all, hinged, so it all fold up. And so I could bring my own backdrop. So what I would do is I would get to wherever I'm doing a show, if it was for a club or a group or whatever, maybe they're having dinner. So let's say this is the room. I would come in. I'm going to do my show right here, okay? And the people are all sitting here having dinner or whatever. But what I do is I'd set the backdrop up in the corner like this. Okay. Now I've created a little dressing room for myself. So I'd have my tuxedo. I'd just hang it on the backdrop. I'm behind everybody, and I've got all my props and my birds. Now I could change clothes, put on my tuxedo, get everything ready, get all the birds loaded, ready to do when it's time to do the show. Now all I have to do is take the backdrop, just kind of swing it out like that. So it's facing the audience, and take my props, move them out to the front. MC introduces me, and I do my act. And then afterwards, I pull everything back, put it back in the corner. I could pack up, change clothes, on to the next gig. So cool. I just did a lot of shows, and that's really where you discover your personality. Mainly, it doesn't happen. You have to rehearse your act, of course, and practice your magic. and that's all great. And read and study magic and try and think of something clever to do. But
That
it really
brings
happens
us-
on stage.
Yeah. So to read and study magic, we do have one commenter question here asking you, what is your favorite magic book?
Favorite magic book, Tarbell Course in Magic.
Yeah.
And the reason I say Tarbell is it's got a little of everything: close-up magic, card magic, parlor magic, stage magic, illusions, mentalism. And, you know, I had tricks in my show in Las Vegas that I learned out of Tarbell and did them in Las Vegas for thousands of people in a 1,200 seat theater. There's a lot of good material there in Tarbell. If you only would, you know, read it and study it.
Yeah. I know Dan
stuff.
Harlan just did that whole Tarbell video series.
I heard he's performed. Am I hearing it right? He performed every trick in Tarbell.
Yeah, he performed, recorded, and updated all of the handling. So he taught it as a penguin lecture.
Wow.
And, you know, I'm sure he might have like glazed over a couple things, combined methods to condense the video series a little bit.
Wow.
But the time that took is ridiculous.
That is, that's that's crazy.
Yeah, and he
can't
had
believe that. It seems like that would take more than one lifetime.
Right. And the updated handlings that he did for a lot of those tricks are pretty amazing. Like the simple, you know, silk to egg, he updated that to handling that's practical for everybody. And then also created like 3 or 4 different methods or routines based on that same handling. So, I mean, it's the same thing. It looks very basic, as most people would think the Tarbell series is, but it's phenomenal what he did with it. The same way the original series, there's so much in there to learn.
Yeah, and you know, the main thing is, you know, don't discount a trick because it's simple or because it's old. The test is it new, you know, or is it super clever? Is it super? The test is, does it connect with the people, with the audience? And the only way you'll know that is to get up in front of an audience and do it. And that's the audience should always be the final judge of if the trick stays in your act or not, or if the bit stays in your act. They'll let you know, and just doing a lot of shows, that's really the secret. Yeah.
So with that idea, only as much as you're willing to expose, 'cause I don't want people to think about your show too much. I want them to actually experience it. In your Lance Burton and Friends show, I'm assuming you do actually perform in that show, correct?
Yeah, I do some of my favorite tricks and illusions in the show. I do about half the show, and my friends do about half the show. So I do about 3 or 4 spots in the show. So I come out and I do about the first 12 or 15 minutes with you know, audience participation and illusions, and then I'll bring out Keith, and then I'll come back and I'll do a spot with a sleight of hand trick and an illusion, and then I'll bring out Godot, and that's kind of the pattern for the show. And
how much of that is part of your Vegas act from the Monte Carlo that you do?
Well, the show is a different show from the one in Vegas.
Yeah.
So if you saw me in Las Vegas, this will be a completely different, you know, it's a different format than what I did in Las Vegas. But the tricks I'm doing, yes, the tricks were all part of my show in Las Vegas at one time or another. So, you know, here's the difference between doing a permanent show and a touring show. If you're doing a touring show, my theory is you try to keep your load in and your tech rehearsal to a minimum, because you come into a place, if it's a long load in tech, if a place hires you to come in a casino. Let's say we're going to play the casino up in North Dakota. If you come in and it takes you 12 hours to load in and tech, you know, they got to pay the crew for that time. So you know, that that's coming out of their end. That's coming out of their pocket. But if you can come in and, load in your show and have everything set up in 2 hours, and then you can do your tech in 45 minutes, and deliver a great show and get a standing ovation at the end. Well, they love you when you do that.
Yeah.
If you go do the show and then all of a sudden the people that hired you said, "Oh, they were easy to work with. They didn't cost us an arm and a leg on our stagehand, our techs." Bring those guys back. That's kind of what you want. So I designed this show with that in mind, and the limited experience I've had in the past of touring. We did a little bit of touring before I retired, but not a whole lot. But what I learned is what eats up your time is when you're trying to light special things. If you're trying to hide, magic-y things.
Right.
That eats up a lot of your time when you're trying to hide threads, or you're trying to light black art, or you're, those type of things. So I designed the show with that in mind. So some places that we go with the show, for instance, we were just in Blackpool. They had an amazing light system, and they had this giant LED screen behind us. So for every number, they put up like images and moving things, and it was really cool. So we could go through, and the show looked like $1 million, and that's great when you have the time to do that, and they have the capability. But sometimes you roll in and they don't have that, and that's fine. We just say, turn the lights up full, keep the spotlight on Lance. Let's do a show. So literally, that's when you're touring, you don't know what condition you're going to run into till you get there.
Yeah. And I it took me a long time to learn that for my own shows, because, I always wanted to do the best show. So it ended up being the most elaborate setup time.
Yes.
And eventually I just got tired of it. Yeah. And I'm like, we're going to do a simple show.
I have seen magicians make that mistake over the years. I know an act that a beautiful act, and I've seen them in permanent shows, where they can have all the fancy light cues and the blackout and the restore and the special things, and it looks great. And if you're in one place doing 10 shows a week, you can put all that in because the crew now knows your show. But when you go to do a one-nighter, even if they have all the fancy lights, I've seen guys try to do all that on one-nighters, and 99% of the time the lights, it's wrong. The blackout happens in the wrong spot, or it doesn't come back up, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think when you're doing a stage act, you got to have two kind of mindsets, the fancy version of the show, and then you want your simple version where you can just say, turn the lights on, keep the spotlight on the magician. Let's go.
Right. Yeah. This question here, I actually like this question. This is a great question. When are we going to see Billy Toppet 2?
When are we going to see Billy Toppet 2? There's the poster.
I got your signed one hanging in the shop. I actually got to catch the red carpet in Des Moines, Iowa at Abercorndabra.
Oh, fantastic. Billy Toppet 2, Billy Toppet versus Godzilla. Billy Toppet 2, The Search for Spock. We're playing around with different names. No, we had a fun time shooting Billy Toppet, and it was a lot of fun.
So I really enjoyed the backstory that you shared at that premiere in Des Moines. Remind me, how long did it take to film that movie?
We were filming for about 3 years, but we were just shooting on the weekends, basically, because all the cast were all my friends, and they were all working in shows here in Las Vegas. So the best day for us to shoot was Sunday, because most of the shows were dark on Sunday. So that's most of the movie was filmed on Sundays. But then in the middle of shooting, we had about 50% of the movie shot, and I shut down production because I got hired to go be the magic advisor on Oz the Great and Powerful that came out a few years ago. so I was teaching magic to James Franco, and that was a fun experience because
Yeah.
I mean, that was a huge production. There was like an army of people on the set. There was literally like 300 or 400 people on the set. You know, the cast and the technicians. It was shot up in Michigan, Pontiac, Michigan, and there were at this facility there were like 7 sound stages, and so they were building sets in all 7 stages. So we started on stage 1, and when we finished there, we moved to stage 2, and they tore that one down and started building a new set, and they just kind of went around in a circle. But it was literally an army.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's impressive.
amazing.
Like being able to see like the behind the scenes clips now of like movie productions and stuff. It's crazy to see what goes on to making something like that. So the fact that, I mean, putting together a full length movie of your own, I mean, even though like the huge production teams and stuff wasn't there, that's still a huge task to do for timeline purposes. Even
it was almost overwhelming even to start. And then one day I said to myself, you know, Lance, don't get overwhelmed. Don't think that you have to shoot a whole movie. You don't have to shoot. All you have to do is shoot one scene. You can do that because you're going to take one day. You're going to take Sunday. You're going to shoot one scene. And once I did that in my mind, I made that. Then I was able to really start instead of thinking of the whole thing. You got to think of the whole thing, but it was really, you know, it's one scene at a time.
Yeah. And how much of it changed over time? Like once you film that one scene, then we should do this instead of this and this and this. And it changed.
Well, not much changed. I tried to really follow the script really close and not do too much improvisation, although a little bit is okay. You know, there are moments of improvisation, but for cases of, and then at one point we discovered that we'd made a huge mistake in continuity. We shot the rescue scene where we run into the garage and rescue the girl. Yeah. And Michael Goudeau and Michael Hawley, who played the 2 jugglers in the show, let's see if I'm remembering this right. They were wearing black shirts in the rescue scene. Okay, we shot that first. And then later on, we shot getting ready to rescue, you know? So we're driving around and we're getting ready to rescue. We're looking for the place to try and do the rescue. And then we're in the middle of shooting all that. And I noticed these 2 guys are wearing red shirts. I'm going, the jugglers had on the wrong color shirts on one of these. So then I'm thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to? We've shot all the stuff getting ready. They're in red shirts. We've shot the rescue scene, and they're in black shirts. What am I going to do to fix this? Or else we're just going to have this big hole in the movie. So then finally, we had a scene to shoot just before the rescue, just where we're looking through binoculars and we're seeing it. And then I have an idea. I said, well, why don't we do the shirt pull? So I got them and I got their shirts on, you know, ready to do the shirt pull, and we made a bit out of it. So I forget the line I said, okay, you know, let's go rescue the girl, and the 2 jugglers go, yeah, let's do it. Whoosh, and they pull their shirts off and they hit them. And it turns out every time I see that scene, I laugh because it's just it's ridiculous that they're doing the shirt pull to get ready to go do the rescue. But I also remember that why we did it.
That's hilarious. Who was it? I think speaking of the improv parts on that, Louis at the gate, he didn't have like a script or anything.
Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah. So my buddy Louis Anderson, I asked him to play the security guard. So he comes over And if you don't know Louis Anderson, you know, he's the funniest stand-up comic in the world. He's just hilarious. And I remember the first time I saw his. I mean, I met Louis over 30 years ago. We've been friends for a long time. But you go see his show. I saw him. The first time I saw him live was at the Bally's Hotel. He comes out. He does about 15 minutes of material. Mm-hmm. He closes with like 10 or 15 minutes of material. And then right in the middle, there's like 30 minutes of improvisation. And he just talks to people in the audience. He just says, "Where are you from? What do you do for a living? Is this your wife?" And he goes and talks like 4 people, and he does 30 minutes just going back and forth, and it's just amazing. So anyway, we're shooting the scene, and Louis is great, and we do 4 or 5 takes shooting Louis, and the cameraman is in the car next to me in the passenger seat. So that's our best angle to get Louis. But each time we do a take, Louis throws a little something in, you know, he just a line or something. So I can feel Louis. He's like an engine revving, you know, like a drag racer getting ready to go. And I'm thinking, okay, we did like 4 or 5 takes, and I had what we needed for the scene from that angle. But before we turned the cameras around the other way, I thought, you know what? I know Louis is ready to go. I can feel his engine ready. So I went to Louis. I said, "Louis, we got it, what we need from this angle. We're going to turn around the cameras and shoot from a different angle. But before we do, this is the best angle to shoot you. I want to do one more take. And this take is just for you. You do whatever you want. You go any direction you want, and I'll follow you." So Louis says, "Okay." So we go, and now we do the scene, and Louis just goes off, and he is brilliant. He's just free-forming, and I'm going with him. You know, I'm talking to him, and it is hilarious. And at the end of that, you know. So now I get into editing, and I'm looking at it, and every time I look at that take, I'm just laughing. I couldn't use the take in the movie because by the end of the take, it really wasn't Billy Toppett talking to the security guard. It was really more Lance and Louis talking. But I did use one of the jokes that he improvised. I think he did a rabbit joke. And I cut that in. So I actually did get to use one of Louis' bits that he improvised in the movie. But then in the DVD extras, I included that whole take in the DVD extras. So people can see it. But it is Louis just brilliant, just hilarious.
Yeah. And how many, there's going to be way too many to name, I know it. How many magicians were in that filming?
We've got to count them up. I'll have to look at the credit list, but it was unbelievable. You know, like in the party scene that we shot here in my house, there was, you know, probably 10 magicians in that one scene. We had me and Tom Sony and Fielding, and we had Rory Johnson. We had Norm Nielsen and Lupe Nielsen, Mondre, Luna Shimada, Brian Irwin. I mess up. Bill Smith was here. Stan Allen was here. So it was just in that one scene, there was a dozen at least.
Yeah, I think just that scene alone, if captured, it could be a timeless photo, just be put away, and all these names that are just, people are going to be amazed that they were together all at one time.
Yeah, I'm so glad that was so much, that was such a special experience being able to work with my mentor, Johnny Thompson. You know, he was so fantastic in the part of the mob boss, and being able to direct, you know, your mentor was just so special.
Well, he almost has that persona of him anyway, and so it was a perfect role. It really was. What was there was kind of a weird inside joke or switch there with this security boss of the casino. And
So the character was the eye in the sky, the head of security for the casino. The character's name was George Joseph, and my good friend and assistant Michael Rome played the part of George Joseph. But there really is a George Joseph who is a casino gambling consultant that helps casinos catch cheaters. And George is actually in the movie. He plays the sheriff.
That's right. That's what it was. Yeah. And so that was perfect. Yeah. I thought that was a fun switch because I was like, oh, so he's actually in there, just somewhere else.
If you know George Joseph, if you ever see him, what he does, ask him why he wasn't playing George Joseph in the movie, and what he does, he'll look at you and say, "Lance told me I wasn't good looking enough to play George Joseph."
That one, I'm sure he's never going to live down as soon as people hear that story more. That's great. But Billy Toppett. I got to go back though. The opening scene of the birthday party. I think that hit every magician like right in the heart. Like every magician has felt that experience, like the perfect show and the $50. like that kind of set the tone for the whole show.
Well,
and on top of that,
we all started as the birthday party magicians. Most of us. When I was a kid, that was my first job. I was like 12 years old. I was doing kids' birthday parties.
Yeah. That was.
I used to show up with the doves, in the tuxedo.
That's really cool. But Billy Toppett isn't the first thing you've ever produced. You produced another TV show, right?
Let's see. I produced some of my TV specials.
Yeah.
The last couple of specials that I did. And Burton on the Road was the last one, and the one before that was Top Secret. And I produced those, as well as we shot a TV special with Fielding. Hocus Pocus is Fielding West, and a show with the Young Magicians, Young Magicians Showcase. So so that's that was fun.
And I actually didn't know this until you shared this not long ago on your own page. You were also in an episode of Knight Rider.
Oh yeah.
So that's really cool.
Mid-80s. Played Austin Templeton, the evil magician / assassin.
So that was really cool to see that.
I just saw it on TV. There was a cable network that's been rerunning all those Knight Rider episodes. And it was on just a couple of weeks ago. So that was, and I hadn't seen it in years. So I actually sat down and watched it again.
So what was it like going back and seeing your past self acting?
Yeah, that was from like 35 years ago.
Feel a little surreal, out of body experience, just a little bit.
Yeah, but that it was doing that show. That's what kind of got me thinking about doing something else. That's what's prompted me to do Billy Toppett eventually. Mark Wilson was the magic consultant on that episode of Knight Rider. Mark encouraged me to continue to try and think about things to do, combining magic and movies, or magic and TV series. So that was Mark Wilson really is responsible for that. All right, I've got this. Hey, listen, I got this ready to give away. I'm going to mail this out to somebody. Let's see who else. You see another question there?
Let's see here.
Do you see one you want to?
Let's see.
I don't mind. For some reason, I can't get mine to scroll. Oh, here now it's working.
There we go. While we're searching here, one of the questions: who have you been starstruck by? And he's actually there with a picture of you, Lance, in that profile picture.
Oh, look, yeah, Chris. Was that taken, Chris? Was that taken in Blackpool? Was that when I was in? Was that when I'm trying to look at now? I'm trying to look at the background of that photo. Was that taken in Blackpool? I think I want to say it might have been. Yeah, that's the great thing about magic. You get to meet so many interesting people. Well, the first person that I met, I think that I was really starstruck was Johnny Carson.
Yeah. That by itself is an amazing story about you going on the show. And how many times were you, 10 times? Is that
10
right?
times with Carson and 10 times with Leno.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But the first, you always remember your first one.
Yeah.
But it was a very, very, I always use the word surreal, very surreal experience because, you grow up. When I was, when I was in like high school, I would watch the Tonight Show because, growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, when you're interested in magic and show business, that was the closest that we had to, real show business. You watch the Tonight Show and you see all the people come on, Johnny Carson introducing Sammy Davis Jr. and all the great acts they would and they would have the magicians on every now and then. And so then to be standing there in the wings behind the curtain and you hear that voice, and you hear that band and you hear Ed McMahon laughing and you're standing there and now he's introducing you. It's like,
it just becomes very real.
It's like it blows your mind. So really that was, Carson was the.
Yeah. So what was it you performed the first time you were on Carson?
I did the bird act. So it was
That's what I thought it was, but I wasn't sure.
The doves and the candles and the cards and the zombie ball. This was before I had the floating bird cage. It was a zombie ball. It was a rings and things, silver zombie ball.
Very cool. So you must have got a pretty good time slot on that show then, huh?
Well, yeah, that was the thing. See, they told me that I had moved out to Los Angeles. I'd driven out to L.A. to do the It's Magic show that Bill Larson and Milt Larson put on. And the star of the show that year was Ricciardi, the great illusionist from Peru. So they called up the Tonight Show and, hey, we want to see if we can get Ricciardi to come on the show to promote the It's Magic show. And they looked at his tape and, he did illusions. And they said, you know what? We just had Doug Henning on 2 weeks ago. He was doing illusions. So what else do you have? And so then they go, well, yeah, we got this kid that just won the gold medal from the International Brotherhood of Magicians. And he does a sleight of hand act and he's got birds. And they said, okay, we'll book him. And then, so we get out there. And now the talent coordinator comes to the preview night of It's Magic and sees the act. And it was the first time I'd performed on the West Coast. And so all the magicians, especially all the young magicians, were there because they could get in for, like half price for preview night. And so anyway, I remember going out on stage and got this wonderful reaction because nobody had seen me on the West Coast. And then the talent coordinator, Jim McCauley, comes backstage after the show and I'm talking with him and, and he says, how long is your act? I said, 12 minutes long. And he says, well, you can't do 12 minutes on the Tonight Show, but, bring the whole thing and we'll figure out what part you're going to do and do it in rehearsal. And then we'll figure it out. And I said, okay. And I showed up the next day and I went out in the rehearsal. I did the whole 12 minutes. And then I'm standing there on stage. I'm talking to the stage manager, real nice guy named Kevin. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see this hand coming towards me. And I just turn and shake the hand and I look up and there's Johnny Carson on the end of the hand. And I don't remember what he said. I remember he was nice and very complimentary, but that was the moment I met him and I was kind of starstruck. And then he left and about a minute, 30 seconds later, a minute later, Jim McCauley, the talent coordinator, came over and he says, Lance, Johnny was watching your rehearsal and Johnny loves the act. And he said, let the kid do the whole 12 minutes.
That's amazing. That is awesome.
So they put me on as the first guest. They let me do the whole act. And then the second guest was Dick Cavett. Now, Dick Cavett, Johnny Carson, both were amateur magicians growing up. And so then the next segment, the two of them sat there on the panel. and talked about magic and talked about my act for all segments. So it was like the greatest launching pad any young magician ever had. And that's so my entire career started that night. That nothing I ever did after that would have ever happened if it hadn't been for that night. And it was Johnny Carson personally saying, "Hey, the kid's good. Let him do the whole thing."
Yeah.
So that's a debt, I'll never be able to repay.
Yeah. And, a lot of people say that it's just right place, right time. Some people get lucky. And, I'm going to say that your Dove act was so polished and so original and unique that wasn't luck. That was all the hard work that you put into that.
Well, here's the thing. Most people think that my career began on that night, October 28th, 1991. But what they didn't understand was that even though I was young, I was just starting out, I was only 21 years old, I still had managed to rack up 1,000 shows in front of strangers. Matt King and I worked for 3 summers at a little amusement park in Kentucky. We were doing 21 shows a week. So I was doing that act, 21 shows a week. So that's what, 84 shows a month, all summer long. So that's
amazing.
So you rack up 250 shows every summer for 3 summers, plus all the shows, you do private shows and Christmas shows, and you add those all up, and there's 1,000 performances. So that's what I always tell the young magicians is if you want a professional act, it takes 1,000 performances in front of people to turn it into a professional act.
Yeah, that's good advice. I definitely appreciate that. And I personally appreciate that act altogether because, like I said, the World's Greatest Magic series is what got me started into magic, and that was probably the most memorable.
Here's a question. Here's one. Yarden Shalev.
I got you. Yeah, there we go.
How did you add new acts to your show, even though you had a show every day? Boy, now this is a great question. And I'll tell you what I would do, and it's not just me. Jeff McBride did the same thing. If you have a new routine that you're working on, you want to try it out. You want to get it to the point where you can put it in front of an audience and hear the reaction, figure out if it's something you want to pursue. The way I always did it, and the way Jeff does it, and a lot of people, Matt King I know does the same thing. You sandwich it in between. Something that is going to work. So, you don't want to close your act with something new if you can help it. You don't want to open, but if you got your opener, you go out, you got your routine, whatever it is, you're doing silk to egg to open with, that's going to get laughs. It's going to, okay, bang. Now the audience likes you. They see. Then you slide in something new, see how it goes. And then you got your closer afterwards. But that's a good question. That's what you try to do. And sometimes it takes a couple of shows, to figure it out, but not too many. And you'll know if it's something you want to pursue or it's something. And here's the other thing. You have to judge a routine in the way it goes in your act, in context. For instance, I put certain tricks or illusions, routines in my show in Las Vegas, and I would try to slip them in the second half of the show. I had a spot in the second half of the show where I had an illusion spot, and I could swap it out. Some nights I would do the backstage illusion. Some nights I would do the TP. So I had that slot, and I had a new illusion, and I put it in there, and it didn't work in that spot. It wasn't strong enough to go in that spot, because they'd already seen me vanish and reappear a couple of times. So it was a trick where I disappeared and reappeared somewhere else. So in the second half of the show, it didn't work. So then I tried it in the first half of the show, about 25 minutes into the show, and it worked there. So it's funny. Sometimes it's a matter of slipping things in different positions to find the spot where it works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I've seen a lot of magicians start out too, where it just feels like there's not a narrative with it, and I think that's just as important. Like everything needs to make sense in what order you do it.
Yeah, there's a concept called diminishing returns, and this is really apparent with when you're doing a dove act. In any kind of magic, really, but you come out, you produce your first bird, however you do it, people are going to go, oh, wow, a bird, okay, second bird, oh, there's another one. Now they're ready. Okay, now they're going to watch you close. So the third one's got to be really good, so, because they're leaning in. Now they're going, okay, I get it. This is what he's going to do. Okay, now I'm going to catch it. Now they're leaning in. They're burning you, It's like, so the third one's got to be really good. And then what you got to do is you got to try to. And then on the fourth one, my fourth bird was the newspaper. So psychologically with the audience, I'd have the paper. I did the Neil Foster center tear. So I tore the center thing out, and I did the little gag where I would like do this with the little center thing, and it would like flutter its wings.
Oh yeah.
You're right, and the audience would laugh because in their mind they're going, okay, now he's messing with me. He's telling me. He's telling me there's a bird coming. All right, I'm going to watch him. I'm going to watch him real close this time. So then I put the paper and I light it on fire and I open the paper up, and now the paper's restored. And now they're watching. And they go, and now they relax for a second. They're leaning in, going, okay, is it going to turn into a bird? Oh, it's restored. Oh, he restored the paper. Look at. Now they relax, and then when the bird comes out, when they see me start to do it, and they're going, no, he didn't. He doesn't have a bird in there. So psychologically, that builds. And if you look at like Tom Sony or Channing did the Double Dove production. Remember with the two birds at once. That was at the end. That was at the end of the act. That was the last near the end of the bird productions. Because how do you keep topping yourself? How do you keep the interest? And well, two birds. Okay, bam. Then they're going, holy cow, two at once. So that's the challenge, is to find ways to, because if you just come out and produce bird all the same, you'll get less and less reaction on each one. Yeah. So the challenge is how do you make it interesting? And it's the same. I've discovered it's the same for illusions. I did a lot of transpositions in my show where I would disappear and reappear over here, or reappear in the audience, or in the chandelier, or inside the sword guy. So you have to do them in the right order, so you keep the interest and you don't get the diminishing returns. Sure. Nice.
Yeah, that was a good question. I brought up a lot of good conversation.
Now let's see. What if somebody's asking about the future of magic in this moment with health problems? There you go. Yeah. Mago Fakud. Well, there is the $64,000 question. What's going to happen?
Right.
So right now, this is happening with the computer.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing right now when we can't get out and do shows. But I've seen a lot of the guys doing kids are having birthday parties on Zoom now. So I've seen guys out there doing magic for Zoom parties and things. I think that's in the short term. I think that's the way we have to go. I did a birthday party the other day on Zoom. So it was my first one. It was a friend of mine who was having a party, and he turned 60, and he's but he had friends all over the world, from like India and Europe and America, and so he asked me to do a little magic. I said, yeah, I'm happy to. So I did. I came on and did like 3 tricks, and 2 of them were interactive tricks. Yeah. So I could talk to people. I was talking to his brother in India, and
it's cool.
And did a like a interactive card trick with him. So yeah, I think in the short term that's the way we're going to have to go.
Yeah, I did a school that I perform for every year. They asked me to do a virtual show for their end of day hurrahs because all the classes were online anyway. So when the
Yeah.
kids joined to do the class, there I was doing a show for them. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but it was received really well, and it was definitely a lot of fun. So,
What was the favorite trick that you did from the with the kids?
yeah,
What do you think went over the best?
I don't know if I won't say the name of it, but where basically the letters, random letter generation ends up forming a word when you flip it over.
Oh, let's see.
Um,
I'm trying
so
to
basically, the kids gave me a math problem, and it
Yeah.
generated a random thing of numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we had flipped it over at the end, it says "Have a great summer." And so the
Oh,
numbers doubled as letters
the
when.
number upside down. The numbers made
Yeah.
letters. Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was fun. I did a lot of close-up stuff on my table here where they could see the cards and stuff up
Uh-huh.
close. They really actually enjoyed Tiny Plunger. I didn't think that would go over well, but they liked seeing the little thing
Yeah.
do that, and the interaction there of just people just naming cards and different stuff like that. It was definitely a lot of fun. Like it was kind of a shot in the dark. What am I going to perform, and we'll see if it works. And it went over well. So
Yeah. Well, that's how you find out. You do
Yeah.
it in what that's the question. What tricks, what routines work in this medium and doing a virtual show. So, you gotta try them out and the audience will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think going into it, I started to overthink it a little bit because I wanted every one of them to be interacting with the viewing audience. But in the end, for them, it's no different than watching a magic show on TV. And as long as they get to interact just a little bit, it still feels like you're performing for them individually.
Yeah. I was thinking when I was getting ready to do this birthday party, I was thinking, if you're going to pick a volunteer from a live audience, you know how you want to pick somebody at random. You take a paper ball and toss it in the audience.
Yeah.
We're gonna have 3 people toss it. Whoever catches it on the third toss. So you do something like that. So I was like, I want to do something like that. I had a trick that I was going to do that I normally. That's what I would do. To pick someone at random, so everyone understands that this person, is not in on it. They're just a normal person in the audience. I decided not to do it because just for time, and I wasn't that familiar with the technology. I just wound up asking the birthday boy, who do you want? Pick one of your friends, one far away, and I'll do a trick for them. So, and that worked fine. So, but what I was thinking of with Zoom, you got everybody up on the screen. I was thinking of just pointing to somebody and saying their name and say, "Hey, unmute yourself," and we're gonna do this 3 times. I want you to look through. You pick somebody and then have them.
Very cool.
All right, you unmute yourself. Now
Hollywood Square style.
Yeah, that I kind of had this idea of doing it like that, like a Hollywood Squares, and let them pick, and whoever was the third person to get picked, okay, you're the one we're going to do the trick with. So I'll have to try that. If I ever do another Zoom show, I'll have to try that to see if it works.
Yeah. The other one I forgot about that I actually opened with because I needed a deck of cards to perform with. I actually started with just a mental photography deck, and that got a really, really start of it to taking a blank deck and then printing it to become real, and then off camera, then doing a full deck show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was a good introduction there. I kind of almost generated my show right in front of them. Every piece that I used just kind of transformed or appeared into the next piece. So
very nice.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Here's somebody asking about the mantle of magic. Glenn Wall.
There we go.
Glenn says, "I'm back after a long break from Matt. Have you picked anyone to pass your mantle to?"
That's a great question, actually.
Plan to? How would you? Oh, yeah. So for those who are not familiar with, I wonder if I've got pictures here in the souvenir book. Hold on. I got the, oh, here. We were talking about Johnny Carson earlier. That's my first. That was from 1981. That's my first Tonight Show, and there's the card doing the card sword with Johnny on the Tonight Show, and that was my last Tonight Show just before he retired. That's like 1991. And let's see here. Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, here it is. Back in the Alexander Herman died in 1896. And after he passed away, Harry Keller, who was his big competitor, became the number one magician in America. And Keller retired in 1908. And at that time, he introduced a young magician named Howard Thurston to the world. And they did a tour together. And then Thurston took over the show, took over the routes that Keller had established. And he performed. He was number one magician in America till his death in 1936. And his successor was a young magician named Harry Jansen. And Thurston changed his name to Dante. And Dante took the second unit of the Thurston show overseas. And when Thurston died, Dante returned to the U.S. And then Dante found a young fellow named Lee Grable and was naming him his successor. And before they could make the announcement, Dante died. But anyway, Lee Grable was a great guy, and he wrote a book called The Magic of Lee Grable, which is a fantastic book with all of stuff that Lee did in his show. So it's really good material, practical stuff. Lee named me as his successor in 1994. So I'm the latest member of the royal dynasty of magic, they call it. But anyway, so at some point I'll have to pass that along to someone else. So, but what we have now that they didn't have then is this thing called eBay. So
anybody can have it.
Anybody can have it.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, if we're going that route, it would look really good in my shop. Like,
there you go. We could.
I mean, I'll secure it. Don't worry.
I could name you as my successor for a week, and then it comes back. We could do it that way.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's great. I think everybody deserves a shot. I mean,
you could have more than one successor. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, under contract, give it back to you. I won't take it and run.
Yeah. There you go.
So a couple more things. I won't keep you too much longer here, Lance. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
So what can we expect from Lance Burton in the future? I mean, I know you're doing your Lance Burton and Friends show. I know you had talked about moving back home. What are your plans in the future?
Yeah, eventually I'm moving back to Kentucky. I have a farm there, which was my grandfather's farm. And I built a house there about 20 years ago. So that's sitting there. And I've always planned to move back to retire there on the farm. And I built, just last year, built a warehouse. So all of my illusions have already been moved back to the farm.
Very cool.
So everything from the show is all back there in the warehouse. And so, yeah, eventually that's where I'm going to retire to. That doesn't mean I can't go out and still do the Lance Burton and Friends shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am having such a fun time traveling around, and it's just great going to. I did my career backwards. Most magicians go and hit the road and travel for 20 years and then come to Vegas and get a residency.
Sure.
I came to Vegas when I was 22 years old and worked here till I was 50. And so now I didn't get to travel that much and perform in other theaters, other venues. So I'm really having a fantastic time doing that and seeing people. And when I do one of these shows, at some point in the show, I always because I want to know what the makeup of the audience is. I always ask the audience. I say, by your applause, how many of you saw me in Las Vegas sometime over the last 40 years? And it's usually about a third of the audience, or sometimes more. Sometimes it's half the audience. Caught me in Las Vegas a time or two. So I'm just really, that's the fun part, as I said, is just reconnecting with people, 20 years later, 30 years later down the line, and hearing their stories. So to me, that's the fun part now.
Yeah, very cool. It's almost like you could relax and do like the local residency thing for you, but it's almost like you said in reverse, the more work going out and doing all these tours, but you're with friends, and so that's pretty awesome that you get to travel and be with them. So most guys, when they get together with their buddies, they'll go to the lake and go camping and fishing for a weekend, and sit around, drink beers, and tell stories and joke around. So when I get together with my friend, well, I don't drink, first of all, but when I get together with my friends, they're mostly all magicians and jugglers and comedians. So we, entertain each other when we get together. And so that's what we're doing. It's just more fun when, there's an audience there. Yeah. Oh, that's great, Lance. Well, any last parting words before we say goodbye here?
Well, let's see. We need to decide who is going to get the valuable prize.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
I really like the mantle question. That was really good.
I do too. Who was it that asked that question? Here.
See.
I'm back at the table. Glenn Wall. Glenn is on Facebook.
There
Glenn, you have won the Lance Burton 2-card mystery. So all we need is your mailing address. So if you will go on Facebook and send me a message. And hold on, keep that question up. Let me just take a photo of that so that
he has responded. So he is here. He is present.
Okay. So that's Glenn. I got a picture of that screen. So you have won. Oh, here he says thank you. So just send me a private message, and we will get that in the mail to you.
All right, congratulations, Glenn. That is awesome. And one more time, for those of you who still want to get some awesome Lance Burton merchandise, check out lanceburton.com.
Yeah. Oh, here's a question about Matt King. Now, did I tell you? I didn't tell you the story about the Matt King show. I can't remember if this was January after we got back. We did 3 shows in January, Lance Burton and Friends. And then and then in February, we did the 2 shows over in England. I can't remember if it was in January or after we got back from February. But anyway, it was about 11:30 in the morning. And I'm on the treadmill or something. I'm exercising, and I get a call. And Matt King was in his backyard, and he tripped on some stairs and fell down, and he tweaked his back. I mean, it's not funny. It was painful, and he couldn't get up, and he was screaming in pain till someone came and found him. And then he thought, "Oh no, anyway." By the time I talked to him, he was taking a Motrin or something, but he still couldn't go do a show. So he had gotten a hold of Michael Goudeau and Fielding and Jacob Jacks, and he was calling about us filling in for, if I could go down and fill in for him in the show. And I said, yeah, I'll go down and we'll do, you got Fielding. And so we had Fielding and Goudeau and me. We just got back from some trip. And then Jacob, who I knew also. So we went down there and we did his shows that day. We did 2 shows. So instead of Matt King, it was Lance Burton and Friends. It was slightly different than the one we do out on the theater. I didn't have my illusions. Those Keith had those in the truck back in Des Moines. So, we went and filled in for Mac. So that was a lot of fun.
That's cool. All right. Is that what he kind of?
He was something in the bear suit. Yeah, he said that I could jump in the bear suit if I got the urge to get back on stage.
There you go. See, there's your calling, bear suit.
I did wear that bear suit once. I didn't do the trick, but we did a bit in the at the Academy of Magical Arts, the Magic Castle Awards banquet several years back.
Yeah.
Mac emceed the show. I forget what the bit was, but I had to come out wearing the bear suit for some reason.
Well, did they require the bear to be in a tuxedo? And
I don't know. I had my tuxedo on underneath it.
Well, then at least you were in dress code then, so you're good.
I came out, took the head off, and I had a line or something. I can't remember what it was, but I have been in that. I have been in that bear suit.
Right.
Whatever
on.
it takes. Whatever it takes.
keeps you in the spotlight. So
yeah. So anyway,
Well,
yeah, that's it. My only my word to everybody is use this time wisely. I'm stuck at home. Just like you, work on your magic. I'm rehearsing a new trick. So I have a trick here, and I'm rehearsing it. And I can't wait for the quarantine to be lifted because I want to get it out and try it in front of an audience. And I'm excited about it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to use this time constructively. And you do the same thing. If you've got a trick you always wanted to do, you never had time, this is it. And the last people I interviewed was Justin Flom. And he said that he is super excited for Las Vegas shows to start up again because every performer is going to be super antsy to get out there on stage. And it's going to be like the first time, and their energy levels are going to be so much higher. He said that he wants to go to the very first David Copperfield show just to see how excited he is to be out there performing again. So I'm sure that'll be the same for all of us. We're just going to be eager to get out there and perform again and just excited. I think the audience is going to be excited. Because they've been locked up too,
Yeah.
So prepare for that day. That's my message. Just keep preparing for that day. It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, and at least hopefully it'll guaranteed ticket sales.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of pent up, desire to go to a show. So, but in the meantime, do it online. Do the Zoom parties. Do that. That's a whole new world that's opened up to us. We were so disappointed, of course, when the IBM convention was canceled this year.
Yeah,
because that's where we have the teen seminar.
Yeah, and you're doing that virtually. Is that right? Is that what I see?
We did it this last week. We did a 2-day seminar with the kids, and we had like 75 kids from all over the world. We had kids from literally on the other side of the planet. We had a couple of kids over in Australia and England, and I think the kids in Australia, it was like 1 a.m, 2 a.m, and they got up in the middle of the night to attend the seminar.
Yeah, so I think even Tannen's Magic Camp, they did the same thing. They went virtually.
I think you're right. I think they're doing their Magic Camp right now, or they just finished it.
Yeah.
So thank goodness we live in a world where we have this technology. We can do these things. So explore that. That's I think a great thing. Magic is the world's greatest profession. Magic is the world's greatest hobby.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed.
All right, Lance. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with me here. Thanks for sharing it on your pages. And you definitely have a good night and stay safe and just enjoy your weekend.
My pleasure. So in about a year, we'll be up there in the Dakotas to see you.
I'll be buying tickets.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Lance.